Who's coming back?
She won't get out of bed.
That's Georgia saying football.
Yeah, she hasn't. Yeah, she's just not eating nothing.
All right, we're gonna start the meeting, gentlemen, ladies. Good evening, everyone. We'd like to call to order the Gateway Board of School Directors Study Session Meeting. Today is Tuesday, November 10th, 2020. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bonnie, can we have a roll call when you're ready?
Yes, Mr. Calari,
Here.
Mrs. Cerrucci,
Here.
Mrs. Delaney, Mr. Gallagher,
Here.
Mr. Gottman,
Here.
Mr. McIntyre,
Here.
Mr. Ritter, Mrs. Warning,
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Bonnie, were there any advanced comments from residents on agenda items?
No, I have no comments.
All right, viewers, feel free to use the Q&A or chat feature, and we'll check back in with those later. In the meantime, we'll move to Section B, Financial Reports. Mr. Schott.
Thank you, Mr. Cerrucci. Section B, financial reports. We have this evening, Section B1, list of bills for the month of November 2020. Section B2, monthly financial statements for the month of October 2020. And Section B3, budget transfers for the month of November 2020. We present all three sections this evening for the board's review.
Okay, are there any questions for Mr. Schott?
Yes, I do. I see have another payment to Access Architects for $34,000. What is our total right now?
The total, including the current check on the agenda, would be $928,124.99.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions? While you have the chance. If not, he's available for email or phone call. All right, seeing none, we will move on to Section C, item previously tabled. Do we have a motion to untable approval of civil and environmental consultants perform geotechnical engineering services?
Second.
Motion to untable by Mr. Clary, second by Scott Williams. Bonnie, when you're ready, can we roll call to untable?
One moment, please. Okay. This is to untable.
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. Cerrucci,
Aye.
Mrs. Delaney,
Aye.
Mr. Gallagher,
Aye.
Mr. Gottman,
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre, Mr. Ritter,
Aye.
Mrs. Warning,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Calari.
Okay, motion carries. It's now untabled. Do I have a motion and a second to approve for discussion and vote?
Motion. Second.
Motion to approve, Mr. Calari, second by Mr. Williams. Is there any discussion?
Just to bring everybody up to date, we had the Buildings and Grounds meeting, and this specifically came up. I know a few of us had asked, and I was one of the, in particular, asked about the geotechnical study to be done. Being Western Pennsylvania, a lot of our buildings are built on silt. There could be a very specific reason why our school was built in that very specific footprint. And to really move on without doing this would be hazardous at best, could be catastrophic. So this is just something that needs to be done, and it's something too that's not going to change. All it does is stall progress if we don't move forward with this.
I think the other question we had last week was why wasn't it done preliminarily? And the answer to that in the Building Grounds Committee meeting was because we had to see the design and where the addition would actually flow, and they needed to have the drawings done actually before they could do this.
Right.
So it actually was in the right order. There was some question on that.
These studies are very specific about very specific pieces of land. And it's really what they're going to set the foundation of the building on. And it's what is that going to be made out of, be comprised of. It was coming. And that's kind of, because I asked that question too, and it was actually, I hadn't thought about it prior to answering the question because I actually knew that answer. But now that the drawing's made and they know where it's going to go, they'll take those very specific core samples and see what needs to be done. That's why it was waited till the drawing was finished.
And if I could just add that one of the issues that, when you walk into Gateway Middle School that probably not too many people are aware of, there are certain elevation areas in the building with ramps. Even though the building is on a flat piece of ground, it makes you wonder what was underneath in that soil, as Mr. Clary was referring to, that made them build these certain elevations the way they are within the middle school with the ramps inside the building. So clearly this is an area that we need to do in order to find out exactly what is beneath that soil.
I think my biggest question was why we were presented with numbers before this was done. This will affect the numbers.
Yeah, so that was the question I had, why it wasn't done before we received any numbers on the job, so. Yeah. But it has to be done, I mean, there's no way around it, so.
Instead of guessing where certain areas would be, they've been able to identify exactly where they want to test. So I'm speaking with the architect, that in itself which will reduce the cost associated with the drilling and soil samples.
This is all planning towards going forward with the renovations, correct?
Eventually, this board would have to make that decision after we go out for bid, which doesn't necessarily mean a guarantee. It just means, okay, here are the numbers that we would present to the board for a project based on competitive bidding. So yes, it's leaning towards that potential of a vote for a renovation.
Can I ask a question? I don't know, stop me, Mrs. Cerrucci, if this isn't part of it, but if we don't move forward with these consultants and the renovations, what's going to happen with the buildings? I mean,
ultimately, we're currently with two middle schools, both buildings, one being nearly 70 years old. This building, which we currently sit in, is 60 years old. A feasibility study was done in 2010, which I provided information to this board and viewing members at the Buildings and Grounds meeting. In 2010, not only the condition of Pitcairn was discussed, Pitcairn Elementary, which was eventually closed the following year in 2011. However, the number one issue associated with that feasibility study in 2010 was the condition of our middle schools and understanding the age, the facilities, but also recognizing with an attendance study that both buildings are currently operating at nearly 50% capacity. So when you look at that, and if we choose as a board not to move forward at this time with any renovation, we need to seriously look at the needs of that building, both buildings, meaning the HVAC, the air conditioners, which, essentially we piecemealed window units in the buildings and new roofs and everything else associated with the floors, the kitchen areas. And, just so the viewing public understands that in 1950, Gateway Middle School, which was Monroeville Middle School at the time, that building.
Who's president?
Harry S. Truman. Harry S. Truman. And understand that that building was for Monroeville, and at that time, Gateway School District did not exist. And students attended that middle school and had options of going to different high schools throughout the Allegheny Valley until Gateway Union School District was formed with Pitcairn and Monroeville. So that gives you an idea. For those individuals who were born in 1940, were the first people to walk into that building.
Wow, they're old.
So,
I think I like another building we were discussing earlier. I think we're one bad weekend away from being in real big trouble with either one of the buildings.
Well, that's what I'm just saying,
that
because,
hurricane.
It's,
you know, we're putting money out and,
if the wrong system goes wrong
Right.
at the Gateway Middle, the cost to repair it, just to keep that running, it's going to be staggering.
We've talked about this for 10 years. And this, if this board does not wish to go forward with this, at least we set the groundwork for a board in the future that
Literally.
might want to go through it, and we'll save them cash.
That's a perfect way to word it. I know you're reluctant to like spend more money on this, but like, you know, you and I have been on the board for 6 years and we started this
Been
6
talking about
years
it.
ago with all the plans, and we finally, as a community and boards change, we've kind of come up with the plan and we're so close to finalizing it. It's like, okay, and then COVID hit and we're not sure what our budget's going to be like. We're not sure what the bond market's going to be like. We're not sure if we're going to be able to, you know, hit that start button and commit to an actual construction project. But we're so close to finishing the plans, having the design, knowing the costs. I think we're all like, we want to get to that finish line, and then we'll assess the bond market and our finances to see, are we going to be able to do this next year? Are we going to have to put this off a year? Are we going to have to put it off 2 years? But if we do, we'll be ready to go. We'll have everything finished.
Very well said, Mrs. Cerrucci. And it's also important for our viewing public to understand that this district has maintained academic integrity. We are the leaders in Eastern Allegheny County. Recently, niche.com came out with their 2021, and you can go online and take a look, of rankings based off of letter grades for schools. And the district received an A ranking. And that's important for our viewing public to understand, because we are leading in Allegheny County, Eastern Allegheny County schools, with the work that our teachers, administration, and this board has committed to, which is improving academics over the last several years. We need to begin looking at our facilities.
It's also our requirement to provide a safe environment for our
Exactly.
employees and students to attend.
Enrollment is going up. Our kindergarten enrollment, even after COVID and even prior to COVID, I made multiple statements how we were on a record pace. After COVID, we have seen those increases moving forward, where we're near 280 students in kindergarten. Recently, I believe 2 days ago or last night, I was actually chatting with Mr. McIntyre about a piece of property right on the Parkway East, the Westinghouse property in Churchill. Eventually may become an Amazon site, 147 acres. We know that that borders Monroeville. And we know that there's different infrastructure that they're talking about with roads and everything else in that area. 1,500 jobs will be created. We don't know what levels or what. However, we know that families are moving to these communities in Monroeville and Pitcairn based on the education we provide for our students. We know that we've made the investments in our elementary buildings with Ramsey, University Park, Evergreen. We've been sitting on these two middle schools for roughly 10 years. And when you look at the historical picture, 70 years. 50% capacity. This board, we need to make a decision one way or another. But if we choose to hold off, we certainly understand with COVID. However, that are necessary with roofs, plumbing, et cetera.
thank you.
Anyone else? Who have a roll call, Bonnie?
Yes. Mrs. Delaney, I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Aye.
Mr. Gallagher,
Aye.
Mr. Gottman,
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre, Mr. Ritter,
Aye.
Mrs. Warning,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Caleri, Mrs. Cerrucci. Motion carries.
Okay. Yes, very well said. Section D, Personnel Agenda. Mrs. Crump, are you with us? Mrs. Crump?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Ms. Cerrucci. We do have some action items on for this evening. We resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors accepts and approves the personnel agenda items 1 and 2 as listed in the section D for the study session. At this time, we are recommending 2 resignations for this evening. We also have 2 employment. One is for a long-term music teacher who will start effective tomorrow. And also Ms. Oakes for lunchroom aide will start tomorrow, also based on approval from this evening. So we are asking for action on those tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. Gottman. Are there any further questions for Mrs. Crump on the action items? Seeing none, roll call, Bonnie?
Okay, Mr. Gallagher, Mr. Gottman, Mr. McIntyre, Mr. Ritter, Mrs. Warning,
Aye.
Mr. Williams, Mr. Caleri, Mrs. Cerrucci, and Mrs. Delaney.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. For next week, we have under resignations 4 listed. Under leaves of absence, we have 6. We have 2 transfers from collective bargaining agreements. Under employment at this time, we have 1 substitute food service worker and 2 supplemental contracts. We do anticipate that we will be adding a few more for next week. We were still collecting paperwork this week. And for volunteers, we have 5 recommendations and 1 athletic event worker.
All right. Sorry, sidebar. Can I have a motion?
No.
That's right, questions or comments? We already did the action item. Sorry, I was distracted. Forgive me. Are there any questions or comments from Mrs. Crump on section D?
Mrs. Crump, the advisor for the forensic mock trial,
Yes,
does this person have any kind of experience?
For the mock trial, for the supplementals at this time, it does not require experience. It requires for the person to spend the time with the students, provide the information, provide the support.
Okay, thank you.
I can attest that that individual was not involved in mock trial whenever he was in high school.
That was a little joke, in case you missed it.
It was an inside joke there.
It was.
I just want to thank Anita Hyman. She has gone above and beyond. She has been here, I don't know how many years, but many years. And just the education that she has provided for our homebound students. I just want to thank her for everything.
Multiple years and incredible individual.
Okay, are there any other questions for Mrs. Crump on section D? Seeing none, let's move to section E. Conferences and conventions. We don't have any. Section F, administrative resolution.
Elementary education, Dr. Rossi.
Thank you, Dr. Short. Item number 1, approve the Canvas custom training agreement as listed in Exhibit A. Item number 2 is approve the agreement with Intrado for school messenger community engagement model for a yearly cost of $3,300.
Item number 3, two facility agreements, two separate agreements with Grace Life Church.
Item number 4, approve the district's continued participation in the Allegheny Intermediate Unit Number 3's joint purchasing program through the joint purchase agreement for the 2021-2022 fiscal year. It is further resolved that Mr. Polly Schott will be the district's primary representative and Mr. Michael Zarelius will be the district's alternate representative as depicted in Exhibit B. Item number 5, approve the extension of a preventive maintenance service agreement and the year 1 prepayment with Train Incorporated for the chiller or HVAC and the building automated system, the computerized controls at the high school for a 3-year period beginning November 1st, 2020 through October 31st, 2023. And the following amounts: year 1 equals $11,456, year 2 equals $11,914, and year 3 equals $12,391 as depicted in Exhibit C. Note, the above gross yearly prices do not reflect the available discount payment options available through Train Building Systems for prepayment of the entire yearly service fee at the start of the 3-year contract. The district will only be able to take advantage of the 3% discount available and pay the net amount of $11,112.32 for the current 2021 fiscal year. Item number 6, approve the required repairs to be made to the Ephes on the high school roof by Lane Plastering and Stucco LLC in the total amount $8,500 for the 2021 fiscal year as depicted in Exhibit D. Note, the damage to the Ephes on the high school roof was a direct result of wind damage. The insurance claim is not applicable given the required amount of repairs. The Ephes is known as Drive It, which is a styrofoam exterior with a plaster finish. This repair expenditure will be paid from the maintenance department budget in the general fund for the 2021 fiscal year. Item number 7, recognize the following district booster club who has properly submitted an application to the district for the 2021 fiscal year, that being Gator Pride, which is a GMS booster club. Note, the above group does not represent all the district's booster clubs and support organizations for the 2021 fiscal year. Other booster clubs and support organizations have previously submitted applications to the district and were previously approved by the board for the 2021 fiscal year. Additional booster clubs and support organizations will be presented as applicable for approval later in the 2021 fiscal year by season and as they properly submit their complete applications to the district. Item number 8, approve the extension of actuarial services with Mackinac Benefits Group for the required actuarial calculations for the district's post-employment benefits other than pensions liability to be disclosed in the district's financial statements in accordance with Governmental Accounting Standards Board Statement Number 75 in the amount of $7,500 for the 7/120 and the 7/121 valuation periods as depicted in Exhibit E. Note the actuarial calculations for the district's post-employment benefits other than pensions liability are required to be done and disclosed in the district's financial statements each fiscal year. The above fee increased by $100 from the prior 7/118 and 7/119 valuation periods. Item number 9, approve the Tri-Cog Land Bank's notice of intent to acquire 3 Monroeville properties located within the Gateway School District and the waiver of all applicable taxes, tax claims, and municipal claims due against the properties as depicted in Exhibit F. Note, the district is a member of the Tri-Cog Land Bank. The above approval represents additional property acquisitions by the Tri-Cog Land Bank within the Gateway School District. Item number 10, approve the advertisement for request for proposals or RFP from vendors for E-rate network equipment and services. Note, the network equipment and services are partially funded by the Federal Communications Commission via the E-rate program. Thus, the RFP is subject to additional rules and regulations of the procurement requirements imposed by the E-rate program. The RFP will commence after authority is received and will adhere to all the E-rate regulations in addition to the state and local governments for purchasing such services. Item number 11, approve the advertisement for request for proposals or RFP from banks to serve as the depository of district funds and other required banking services for the remainder of the 2021 fiscal year. Please note, the district currently utilizes the banking services of PNC Bank Miracle Mile office, which also serves as a depository of district funds. The actual utilization of the RFP may be necessary to explore and initiate a bank change for the district during the 2021 fiscal year. Item number 12, approve the district's management's discussion and analysis or MD&A for the 1920 fiscal year as depicted in Exhibit G. The MD&A is a required component of the district's audited financial statements. The MD&A will be included in the district's audited financial statements for the 1920 fiscal year.
Thank you, Mr. Schott. Are there any questions for Mr. Schott?
Yes, Mr. Schott, I wondered on number 6 where it's approval of required repairs, and it said that the insurance claim is not applicable given the required amount. of the repairs. What actually does that mean? I mean, because if you have insurance,
It was a $7,500 deductible and the repair came in at $8,500.
oh,
That was based on a discussion Mr. Bob Brown and I had in regards to how to handle this.
And that area at the high school is at the side of the old gym facing the football field. Is that correct?
That's correct. We actually had repairs made by the same company on the opposite side of the EFS. So that was the other thing. We were familiar with this company as well, and we were very pleased with the work they did on repairing the opposite side of the structure.
Hey, good question.
Number 7, is that a new group that is going to be starting? Is that a parent group or is that?
The GMS Booster Club?
Correct.
Gator Pride?
That is a group associated with a teacher and an aide at Gateway Middle School. They have been supporting programming over there with various gift cards, if you want to call it trinkets, available to students. And they sell gear, Gateway gear.
Gear.
Yeah,
Okay.
Do they still Gateway trinkets?
trinkets.
Trinkets?
Yes.
Trinkets?
You know, little gator pins and little pencils. How did that come up on the, you were looking for it, though, right?
Hopefully they sell Gator masks.
Gator mask?
Gator
Yes.
masks.
Any
Okay.
questions?
Mhm.
Yes, Mr. Goldman.
Number 11. What do you think? First question, just may answer the second one. Is this something new that we're requesting, or is this something that's currently existing?
Mr. Sharp?
I'm using this. I'm actually want to have this option available and actually use it as a little bit of leverage. What we're trying to do with PNC Bank, and actually this is a culmination of some things. What they've changed is in the past, we would be free of all fees. This is going to discontinue. Now there's some options that I'm going to be working on with my contact at PNC Bank, some things just to verify the types of services we have, what we're using, what we don't need, what we do need. I just want to be able to have this option available in the event that I need to make a change. And believe me, such a change should not be taken lightly. There are a lot of issues that come from even initiating such a change. But my understanding is we've been with PNC Bank since day one. So it's been a very long and good relationship. We are very pleased with the platform of services they provide to the district. I just thought that it was necessary just to be able to have this option available in the event that I need to officially explore some other options.
And that could be for any fees associated with district banking. We're seeing a lot of banks in the area trying to recoup some losses from COVID, and unfortunately, they're assessing fees to multiple businesses, school districts. So it's just an opportunity to keep things open, and if we need to explore other entities, we could do so.
Make sure we're getting the best deal.
Exactly.
Yep.
Good question.
I have a question, but it's not for Mr. Schott.
Yes, sir.
On item number 3, the facility agreements. 2 questions. Well, actually 3 questions. What are these rentals for? The reason I'm asking that question is because the exemption for religious organizations only covers worship.
Yeah, religious
The,
services.
So if this is something outside of worship, then you got to mask up and you're limited on occupancy. The second question is, how will we vote on something next week with the to be determined amount? I'm uncomfortable with not having a figure.
I'm hoping we'll have a figure by next week.
That's I just I figured I'd ask now if we could have a figure before next week.
Great questions, Mr. Geller.
And the December 20th is a Sunday. Doesn't this organization already have the building in use that day under a previous
You
lease?
should, yeah.
Yeah, I have the same question.
Mr. Brownwell, is this for Christmas services, I assume?
That I don't know. Like I said, these are not my resolutions.
Is Mr. Brownwell on?
No, he's not available.
He's not, but we will definitely get to
I believe it's for our Christmas services. Like our,
To be determined. I talked to Bob Brown's assistant today concerning that. And Bob was awaiting exactly what they would need for the 24th. That's why it's to be determined, but we would have that in there for next week.
it's probably on here because of the time constraint. So it's on here for sake of transparency, but the details will be finalized by next week before we actually have to vote.
That's a lot of work.
Oh, well, my church,
One of them isn't already on their current lease. It's not like
yeah,
Christmas
that's
just came out of.
probably a mistake. I would say the 20th because they
Well,
already
the
have an
24th
agreement.
also should have been on the previous.
Christmas
Eve.
Eve?
It didn't just
I don't
come
know.
up.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
We will
Um,
provide the board with that information prior to the meeting as well. So.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not much on, I know you handle the contract with these often. Has there been any language change in our standard rental facility since the last time we had a vote on them?
I think it's kind of hard to answer these questions without our facilities manager here.
Yeah.
I think,
I'm assuming the answer is no. So I'm just wondering if there's anything right now that's gonna, within the contract, hold the renter to following all legally applicable COVID restrictions, like holding 6 feet, wearing a mask. I understand the capacity and, you know, the attendance is one thing that they, you know, arguably have religious exemption on for this particular rental. But there's not an exemption for the mask, there's not an exemption for the 6 feet rule.
I would defer to our attorney to answer that question.
Yeah, I haven't seen what he's maybe redesigned. We'll see it certainly if you decide you're going to go forward with this.
I just think, you know.
That language, we'll see to it, it's in there.
Yeah. I think, you know, we've spoken on this for a long periods of times, multiple times.
Too long, really, honestly. Could we just not belabor it, I hope, please?
Really?
Yeah.
All right. At the risk of belaboring and making my president mad, y'all know where I stand. I think it was a mistake for us to go against administration and continuing a bad relationship with a tenant. I think adding to that relationship is a monumental mistake. I think it's a bad image for the district, and I think it'd be a terrible mistake to do this.
I have things I want to say, but I don't want to say them, Rick, because of litigation issues. We've been down this road before.
And it's unqualified to say, I think it's bad. You have to say why it's bad.
We've spoke, I was trying not to beleaguer the point, John. I
Got it,
apologize.
okay. Just
But
refer to
they are
previous
not
issue.
following the 6 foot rules. They are not maintaining that distance, and they're not wearing masks.
Okay, thank you.
And they actually openly advertise these facts on their website.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
It's on the agenda.
Section G.
Yeah, we'll move on. We will need to determine by next week if this is a religious service or not, because that is very important to know.
Not from my concerns.
Well, if you don't want to get us sued, it is. Let's move on. Section G, Valerie warning.
Yes, I'm going to read this, but I'm going to pull this. So we have no vote on this. So do I need to read this?
No, are you asking to remove this from the agenda?
Yes, I'm asking to remove this from the agenda.
Okay, is there I need approval to remove something from the agenda.
I think that just nobody makes a motion or a second.
Well, let's do it this way. Is there anybody that has an adverse, is adverse to removing it from the agenda? If not, Valerie's asked for it to remove, we'll remove it.
All those in favor, aye?
Seeing none, there is nobody adverse to this. And I'm silent and nobody's saying anything. Okay.
Okay.
Then Laura, your request is granted.
Well, we could say thank you to the public for providing excellent input.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And thank you for my colleagues for making that suggestion. deeply appreciated. Section 10 is comments from residents on non-agenda items. Are there any tonight, Bonnie?
I have no emails or phone calls.
But there was one that did come in, and Paul kicked it to us, and I spotted it as well. A gentleman is looking for an update on the number of COVID incidents. I think it's by county and by school, if I remember his email.
Districts.
Is there an update on the number of COVID cases in Gateway? And then it says per school,
Per school.
I guess, for each.
I'm not sure if Dr.
Shaky?
Shaky has that readily available, though we can definitely put that out in a communication to all of our stakeholders. Just an FYI, a number of districts based on the number of COVID cases that keep popping up daily in not only Allegheny County and Westmoreland County have gone to almost a grid-like system where they list daily an update of COVID cases, quarantine issues. We're not ready to do that. I feel it's important that we continue to communicate with our families via the letters that indicate a building, number of cases, et cetera. But we can definitely put something together tomorrow to send out to our families. Unless Dr. Chaky has something?
Yeah, I could just provide a quick update about the numbers.
Great.
As far as total Gateway School District cases, we've seen 33 cases district-wide, 20 of those being at Gateway High School, 11 at Mosside Middle School, and 2 at Ramsey Elementary.
Thank you, Dr. Cheney.
That's a combination of both students and staff, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
What's that total?
33.
That's cumulative, right? Not current. Okay.
And understand that if you've been watching the news and newspapers, you've seen in the northern suburbs of Allegheny County, it seems to be truly a hotspot right now. We've had North Allegheny, North Hills, Seneca Valley, even moving down into the South Hills a little bit with Elizabeth Ward and some other schools, taking the approach to shut down to remote learning based on the increases, the surge that's happening. So we will definitely keep our public informed on where we're at as part of my, moving into my administrative report. To the viewing public, we are currently in a holding pattern with the no Wednesdays in person. This will be a virtual day, as we've typically done throughout the course of the 9 weeks. We have officially started our second 9 weeks, and once we commit to moving forward with Wednesdays, of course, it would need board approval for the PA reopening health and safety plan. We do have a meeting next week on the 17th and even on December 1st, the reorganization meeting. So we will definitely ensure that we communicate with all of our constituents, parents, guardians, students, staff, and administrators on our status. But I remind everyone, the recent surge in the paper indicated that, at least in their theory and minds based off of contact tracing, has come as a result of Halloween, kids, families being out and about and maybe not perhaps monitoring themselves with masks and social distancing. We are in a difficult phase right now, and I remind everyone to please wear their mask, social distance, and just be aware of what we're going through in the Commonwealth in Western Pennsylvania. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Mary Beth, thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Just to maybe get something from Dr. Short on that. Obviously, you mentioned the adding the alternate Wednesdays for the cohorts. Today's the 10th. Next meeting is the 17th. So I think it's just, we did get, I got a lot of contact from parents worried about us passing something on a Tuesday and then Wednesday, oops, your kid has to be at school. So I would assume we would give them a week or so of a buffer, which kicks us into the Thanksgiving break. So I just guessing, I would say the earliest possible date would be returning from Thanksgiving if we did.
In all likelihood, yes.
Okay.
And we did send out information today to all of our families about tomorrow being a virtual day, to preempt those people thinking that if something happens tonight, what about tomorrow? So tomorrow is a virtual day.
Thank you for the clarification.
There's been consequences.
Nope.
Tomorrow's all virtual.
Yeah, the next section is board reports. So he just did a superintendent report. Do you have a report? Okay, Mr. Dice, I'm gonna let you go first because last time you did that to me, I forgot you.
Remember, next week, we're gonna put on that small seminar at 6, dealing with board assessments, how they're done. Is it gonna be on TV? It should be. I hope it is.
You want it to be?
Yeah,
public,
let the public see it. I mean,
it's gonna be on the assessment
right,
appeal process.
right. The assessment.
How that happens.
That's right. And I think everyone should see it, hear about it, and maybe pick up a pointer or two, because people are always, it's just important to a lot of families.
So just to be specific, these are assessing teacher or.
Property assessments.
Property assessments.
Cash assessments, they're critical for people's work, right?
Oh, yes.
It was initially gonna be like a board training for, members to understand how that process goes and what his firm does for us. And he's suggesting that we open that up to the public who might want to watch that and learn. I think it's a great idea.
Do we have a date and time picked for that yet? Or
Yeah, it's next week at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
next week at 6 o'clock?
It was going to be our executive session, but it will be open to the public now at 6 o'clock,
That's
a week
Tuesday,
from
6
today.
o'clock, right?
Yes, thank you,
Yeah,
Mr.
no,
Ritter.
Let's, so we know, we're not going to start taking questions from the
No,
public
it'll just be a presentation.
concerning issues with their homes and whatever. This is purely an academic adventure for you, the board, to understand it. But at least it will introduce the subject to the public so that they can later seek out their professionals to work through this problem if they think they need one.
Great,
That's it.
thank you. Do you have anything, Dane?
Do not.
No. Mr. McIntyre, I'm going to let you go first.
Yeah, I was just going to speak a little bit about the end of the football season. I'm sure Val's going to touch on a lot of that, like you normally do. I was fortunate enough to be on the sidelines for that game. I've watched that team now for 4 years, and that was a special group of kids. That's one of the toughest ways you can end a season, let alone a high school career. But congratulations to Derek Davis choosing Louisiana State University. I've spent some time down there in Baton Rouge. It's a different kind of place than here. So it's a lot of fun to be had, and it's one heck of a building he's going to be playing in down there. So congratulations to Derek and all the other seniors this year for a great season. Thanks to Coach Hall. I think he repped the G very well all year. So that's all for me.
Thanks, sir. Mrs. Delaney, how about you?
Yes, I was actually just looking on our emails, and I see that, I don't know if that's for everybody, where Mr. Whalen was inviting people
Veterans Day.
to the Veterans Day high school.
Oh, that's
program, which I
great,
thought was
yeah.
Really great, yeah, for tomorrow. Veterans Day tomorrow, that means a lot to me in a number of ways, and that's why I'm wearing this mask. My husband was a World War II vet. My father was a World War II vet. My daughter and her husband, Air Force. My brother, also in the service. So I have and plus I got married on Veterans Day because
Aw.
it means so much to me. So I'm looking at that to keep all of our service individuals. They've always been on the front lines. They're not just during COVID, but they've always been on the front lines, literally keep them in our prayers and keeping our country safe and keeping our freedoms as they have been.
Amen. Thank you, Mrs. Delaney. Mr. Ritter.
Sure. Congratulations to the football team. I watched the game. I'll tell you, from a coach's perspective, I watched one specific young player there get out there, and with the full support of his team, he tried and tried and tried and had a bad day, and he kept trying and trying and trying. And for me, I was so proud to see him not quit, not be frustrated, but just get up, fall down, get up,
get up, get up. That is exactly what we want to instill in our student athletes. And I hope all the athletes come out for fall track, spring track, and run like the wind. We're going to do it again, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Mrs. Warning.
Just a couple things. Since Mr. McIntyre, he did talk about the football. It's, I always hate to see any sports activity end for that season, but to all our fall athletes, the band, the cheerleaders, you guys were faced with so many obstacles. However, you overcame them all. Thank you for the hours of all the enjoyment and the excitements that you gave to all of us, and hold your heads high. Being a Gator is something very special, so thank you for all that. As Mrs. Delaney said about the veterans program that they're having tomorrow at 11:30, I don't know if you could put the Zoom link on or not at the webpage, since I know Mr. Whalen used to have guests in. I don't know what he has planned, but it's possible maybe you could put the Zoom link on for that, which would be tomorrow at 11:30. To our veterans of all branches, thank you for your sacrifice, your bravery, and example you set for us all. In short, thank you for your service. To all of those who have served and all those that continue to serve, happy Veterans Day to our soldiers, both past and present. And as Mrs. Delaney said, it's a very proud day, looking back at what my dad did. And, you know, they put everything into it. So thank you for that. And also, I don't want to forget about our staff, our custodians, our food service workers, our paras, our bus drivers, and our administrators. You continue to go above and beyond with this COVID that we are faced with every day. I've walked through the schools, and just the way the kids are so intense with the learning and what they're seeing with the online and in the in-person. I just want to thank all of you for just going above and beyond. And on the screen, I asked Bonnie, Mrs. Isha, to show, I was over at Evergreen today, and outside in their patch, they have all the signs of the veterans, I believe from their students and staff that they have outside. And I just want to thank you guys for going that step above and beyond. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Warnings. Very nice. Mr. Clary.
Shout out to my dad, Vietnam vet, and my nephew Ben, who's a currently a Marine. Thanks.
Thank you. Reverend Gallagher.
Also want to congratulate the falls extracurriculars, the great work that they did, being able to overcome some things that none of us ever imagined. And hopefully don't have to experience again those lessons. Although as difficult as they are, they'll guide each of you in the future. Also a shout out to my fellow veterans. Those lessons that that we're learning right now, and the things that you learn in high school are what equip you if a student chooses to go into military service. These lessons that you're learning now are what are going to equip you to able to accomplish all your goals. You may not realize that now. It took me a little while before I realized where I learned that stuff. And also, I just want to mention as we move forward, and we're hoping to be able to open things up as quickly as possible. As Dr. Short said, you know, the masks are our biggest defense right now. You know, and to quote the CDC, these are our vaccine that we currently have. And that'll help reduce and get us back on track, especially as we come upon this holiday season. And also, I keep looking up at the closed caption. If there's anybody reading along on the closed caption, I want to apologize for some of the things that it is posting. It's a work in progress. We got some more work to do on it. But if you're just needing the captions, you're not getting the essence of our meeting. Unless Mr. Caleri has become Bishop Larry. So although as we're,
Mystic Larry. I like Bishop better.
So we are continuing to work on that, and I appreciate all the work that's been done to this point, but we will get this worked out.
Thanks, Scott.
And geez, shout out to Rev. Happy Veterans Day.
Yeah, thanks for your service, Scott. Brian Gottman.
Yes, couple things. One, I normally don't talk about sports, but I will in this case. I do want to give a shout out to all of our fall sports. I mean, they've gone through probably the most adversity ever with the virus, and they have so much to be proud for what they've done between performances, titles. We've even had our first female football player in school history, which every time she took the field, I love watching her kick. Like, it's history every time, and I hope she's not the last female football player we have. And I'll leave it at that for football because I know there's some WPIAL rules that would break if I continue. So next will be Veterans Day. This is the day that does mean a lot to me. Just like with Miss Delaney, I do have a lot of family and friends that serve. My grandparents were in World War II. I have an uncle that served when the Russians were our allies in World War II. My cousin's over in Israel in the Israeli army. I even have friends that served not too long ago. So, they put their lives out on the line every day to protect this country. We may not be perfect. It may never be perfect, but it's our home. And I can't thank them enough for everything they do. One thing I always think about, a couple of years ago, I went to Eden Park, and as my dad and I were leaving, I saw a World War II vet. He had to be in his, probably about his 90s, just sitting there with his wife. And I watched people come in, go out. And before I walked out the door, I turned around and looked. I walked over to him and I said, "Thank you for your service." The expression in that man's face not only brought a tear to my eyes, but to his as well. To have somebody recognize him for what he did and being the only person in that restaurant to say anything. And I don't know where he is today. I hope he's still around. I hope he's doing well. But again, to all of our staff who have served, to our fellow board member, and to our community, thank you. And last thing, artwork. I have received our new artwork for the year, and I'll be having that ready to go for our next meeting.
Mr. Williams.
That's what everybody said this evening. Thank you, Scott, for your service. My father was in World War II, 8th Army Air Force out of Britain, and my uncles were over there. And what they went through, I cannot even imagine, but we're in the shape we're in right now because of what they did. So hats off to them. And hats off to our fall sports teams and cheerleaders and band and everybody involved. You guys did an outstanding job for what we had to go through. And last but not least, I wish former board member, Mr. Arasinko, Greg Arasinko, a speedy recovery. He's in the hospital fighting the COVID right now, but he sounds good, and I expect him home soon. So if you're listening, Greg, get well soon. Hope to see you soon. That's all.
Thank you, sir. There's nothing that you guys said that I can top. I concur all. So with that, I'll seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Mr. Williams. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. We're adjourned. Thank you.